Around the year 2010, I was a small teenage boy of around 15 years old. A year or two prior to that, I was able to get my first Nintendo Wii console from one of my best friends that I bought used. And up until that point, I had around 5 games or so at the most. And I don't know about you, but I could only play Smash Bros. Brawl for 4 hours a day for so many years. I managed to gather around $20 at the time, and I was dedicated to getting myself a new game that will captivate, motivate, and push me to my limits in a physical and mental way. Now, I know that nowadays you can get amazing games for just a few dollars. Matter of fact, around 2 years ago, I bought Rainbow Six Siege for around $8 at the time. Your options basically came down to you could get a brand new shiny game from a Best Buy for a full price. You could get a used game from a place like a GameStop or something like that for around a third of the price. Or lastly, and this, I don't know how popular this was, but you can get a game from the Humble Bundle, or at least deals like that. It's right here. Not being willing to take the risk of buying a used game, finding out that it's not working properly, or that it's broken, or something is missing, and never being able to convince my mom to take me back to change it or get a refund, I decided for the safest yet most expensive option at the time. Let's go to a Best Buy. I convinced my mom to take me to the closest Best Buy one weekend, while I was trying to convince myself that I was going to be able to find my life-changing game for just $20 at the time, including tax. The result? This piece of shit. Sonic and the Secret Rings is a game that I play a total of approximately half an hour before realizing that I had just spent my only $20 in a game that didn't even work properly with the Wii motion sensing controls. If my brain doesn't fail me, I wasn't even able to get past the first level, and since my Wii disappeared around 5 years ago along with that game, I have no idea of even checking where I quit. But believe me, it wasn't far. The controls were bad, the music was extremely cheesy.
Make Believe's Reborn! Every time you finish a level, they always take you back to the main menu and then you just move back and select your next level and Make Believe's Reborn!
The cinematics were awful, and my god, were the graphics for this game in the Wii absolutely horrendous. To be fair, about a month ago I watched some videos of the game in different consoles along with some other reviews, and it seemed to be a much better experience for those people. So yay for them. This $20 purchase was single-handedly my most regretted purchase for years to come. And I took an ex of mine and her mom to see 50 Shades Darker, so that should tell you. However, the title for the most regrettable purchase was taken away from Sonic just a few years ago. And as much as I would like to sit here and talk mad crap about that game for hours, that is not what this video is about. This beautiful gentleman right here is named Nikto, a purchasable character from Call of Duty Warzone 1, a free-to-play live service game from the Call of Duty franchise. But first, what is a live service game? Have you noticed that over the years, there's been a good amount of games that don't go away due to continuous amount of updates from the developers? That is a live service game. A game that is made with the intention of keeping their position on the market for years to come, with continuous patches, updates, improvements, and more. Now, on paper, that sounds amazing, right? Especially when talking about multiplayer experiences. It presents the possibility of amazing games growing in popularity and technical aspects for years to come. Now, before we get deeper into this video, it is important to note that a live service game is not necessarily a free-to-play game. A great example of this is World of Warcraft, a live service game that has been going on for around 20 years at this point. And the only way it's been able to do this is by providing constant updates, some small, some big, but it prevents the game from dropping in quality and content. The game is not free, or at least not without limitations, as the full game is only available with a monthly subscription. But for the most part, players are okay with this as the game works properly, is constantly updating, existing mechanics are constantly being refined, and new content is added as well. Another great example of this is Fortnite, a live service free-to-play game. A game that, although it has become a huge meme in the gaming community due to the overpopulation of little kids,
my friend here, Justin,
It is still by all means a great game. The graphics look phenomenal, the mechanics work perfectly, and it is a challenging game as it has its own unique features that require players to dedicate a good amount of time to fully dominate. The game is free to play, meaning that whether you decide to invest money in skins or maybe the battle pass, it doesn't affect the experience that you have with the core game. You have the full game in your hands the moment that you decide to download it. Other good examples of free to play games are also CSGO, Valorant, Overwatch, Apex Legends, Call of Duty Warzone 1 and 2, and more recently, Fall Guys. Nice. Now I must admit, the script for this video up until this point was written prior to the release of Modern Warfare 2 almost a whole year ago. The game actually had me a little nervous because, well, it seemed like it was gonna prove every single point that I have for this video wrong. And to be quite honest, the same thing happened with the release of Modern Warfare 3 actually. But then the game's release, and well, more on that later. Getting back on track. Defining what a real free-to-play game and a live service game are, it's not that simple. Or I guess it kind of is, in a way. Let me explain. Call of Duty is a game. Call of Duty is a multi-billion-dollar franchise since the Call of Duty is a multi-billion-dollar franchise, making around $31. Call of Duty is a multi-billion-dollar franchise, making around $31 billion or so since their first original release. Modern Warfare 2019 made $1 billion in 3 months. Black Ops 2 made $1 billion in 15 days, and more recently, Modern Warfare 2 alone made $1 billion within the first 10 days of release. You hear these big words being thrown around a lot when talking about big franchises like Call of Duty, Pokemon, Mario, and EA amongst others. And hey, speaking of EA, they are the publishers of Apex Legends and themselves are worth around $30 billion, with Apex making around $2 billion since their release in 2019. And hey, speaking of billions, you know who else made $1 billion since its release? Overwatch. I really believe that it is extremely difficult to really grasp how much $1 billion really is, especially when only 0.1% of Americans make $1 million a year. And you might say, well duh, I know that $1 billion is equal to $1,000 million. Yeah, but still, it's not that simple. Let's put it into perspective. If you had $1 billion, it will be safe to assume that you could spend $1,000 a day for the rest of your life, right? Well, let's take it up a notch and say that you spend $1,000 every hour of every single day for the rest of your life. Or better yet, let's just assume that you're spending $24,000 a day every single day for the rest of your life. Well, by that logic, then that means that the money will run out in 1,000,000 hours. Okay, maybe it doesn't seem like that big of a number in hours, but those 1,000,000 hours translate to 41,666 days and some change. That means that it would take around 114 years for the money to run out at a rate of $24,000 per day. That is absolutely insane. But I digress. These franchises just keep getting bigger and bigger, although the same cannot be said about the quality of the products that they release on a yearly basis or with every update. Now, a lot can be said about games that you pay full price for that fail to deliver what they promise. It is basic business 101 after all. I bid for a product and I expect the product to provide what I'm paying for, which in this case will be a functioning game that provides entertainment and hopefully some fun. However, those games are not the main topic of this video, with one exception. Full transparency here. I'm going to be a little harsh in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 in this section, but I want you to understand why. The Call of Duty model has had a massive change over the last 2 to 3 years due to a little tiny bit of a baby game that doesn't do any bad, it's all good, oh boo 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 so precious, named Warzone. Every single individual title since the release of Modern Warfare 2019, that being Modern Warfare 2019, Call of Duty Cold War, Vanguard, and Modern Warfare 2, and more recently Modern Warfare 3, revolves around Warzone, and thus issues that should only affect Warzone ultimately affect every other release that is connected to Warzone. Not only that, but Modern Warfare 2 released out of a global pandemic where the economy completely sank. The inflation rate had been higher than it had been in over 40 years, and thus prices were, and still are, higher than they had been in years. And yet, people were not only willing but excited to spend between $60 to $90 on a video game. Same video game franchise that over the last year and a half at that point have proven to not care to listen to its player base or even the quality of the product that they were putting out there. Yes, I know what some of you are thinking. Well, it's people's own fault for spending money on things that they don't need or can't afford. Me, I'm so smart. Me. And for those of you thinking that, you will be right. However, my main argument is not that. People would always be dumb with their money. Myself included. My issue with this whole thing is that Activision had to be aware of this situation, yet they released an unfinished, unpolished, lackluster game that had fewer game modes than any other Call of Duty before, fewer and crappier maps than any other Call of Duty, poor server connection no matter where you were apparently, poor matchmaking, low quality audio, no ranked, infected or party mode, and they even had the audacity to bomb it with constant ads to either buy the most expensive version of the game or the football player bundles. And while on the topic of these football player bundles, I have to say this. I am willing to bet my left nut hand that Messi got paid in upwards of millions of dollars for the voiceover work that he did for his own little bundle. Couldn't he, at the very least, sound a little bit more excited when his goddamn operator says something?
Lanzador, si alguien tiene cartucho de escopeta, me hicieron pelota, yo manejo.
He sounds like they woke him up the day before the release because he never sent anything to the developers and they just recorded the lines over the phone. Jesus Christ, man.
Yo lo vuelo, voy a agarrar esa arma. Voy yo, voy, estas balas me sirven.
These are just some of the issues that came with the paid version of the game, all of which applied to Warzone at that moment, and then some constant, and I mean constant crashes, servers lagging in every other match, half of the map flooded with some of the most overpowered AI, one-shots, bomb drones, inability to load into the map, inability to load into the gulag, inability to walk on the map, no weapon balancing, new maps, modes, quality of life updates for several months, and that's just to name a few. And while I'm at it, the cutscenes for this game are some of the most ear-bleedingly loud cutscenes that I've heard in any other video game.
Jesus!
Holy shit!
And I'm gonna stop you right there before you start typing, yeah, you should have tuned in, shut up. I'm here to play a video game. I'm here to download a game and just start playing it. I'm not a technician, my dude.
To partner up with AT&T, we are doing something that I've never done before. And I'm going to 3 different spots and streaming from 3 different spots with the power of AT&T budget. The first one's in Dallas, but I'm not saying where.
Even when my settings all tuned in for the audio, the cutscenes were so incredibly loud that I would either skip them entirely the moment that I could, or just move my headphones off my ear until that shit was done. It is honestly hard for me to believe that these many issues went through several layers of quality control and everyone just kept saying, yeah, it's all good. And hey, while we're in the topic of Warzone, why don't we get into what is a free-to-play game and why they're so hard to criticize and maintain? A free-to-play game, as its name suggested, is a game that you apparently don't need to make any kind of purchase to have the full game available to you. As I mentioned before, Fortnite is a great example of this. However, things get a little murky when talking about free-to-play games and how they make revenue. Let me explain. Microtransactions are bad, or bad-ish, I suppose. Apex Legends is a free-to-play battle royale live service game. You're launched into the map in teams of 3 and the last team to survive wins the game. Each team can only have one of the 25 legends, or at least 25 at the time of this recording, all of them with their very own unique abilities. This, in addition with the game mechanics, allows for very fluid and aggressive movement in which the most skilled players actually make a huge difference in the game. It is a game that takes time to dominate. Personally, I found the 2 or 3 legends that I liked the most and I stuck with them. Learning how to master all 25 legends will take so long that I personally don't think is worth the huge amount of time it will take for me to do so. Well, time and possibly money. if you want to make it easier for you to have access to the 19 remaining legends past the initial 6. Here, and sadly with this game, is where I would like to introduce you to two of the most hated and controversial gaming mechanics of all time. The first one is microtransactions. You pay what seem to be small amounts of money for in-game items. The second one, well, in Apex they're called Apex packs. In Battlefront 2 they're called loot crates. They go by many different names, yet they all mean the same, and they are loot boxes. A mechanic that has been called controversial at best and the beginning of the downfall of gaming at worst. Here's how microtransactions work using a little something about my history with Apex Legends, which, mind you, out of all the games that I'm gonna talk about in this video, it's probably my favorite one. I began playing Apex around 2 years ago, maybe a little more, when Call of Duty Warzone 1 wasn't the absolute shitter and I felt genuine frustration after every session. I've heard of Apex and even played once before, literally a single match though, but never really give it a chance. However, I was desperate. I downloaded the game and to my surprise, I could only use the starting 6 legends, and I thought, no biggie. I'll just keep playing, get better, and eventually unlock all of them for free. After all, you're capable of doing so by earning legend tokens, the free currency of the game that allows you to unlock legends. You can earn these legend tokens by leveling up, and they usually come in packages of 100, 200, or even 300 if I'm not mistaken. This doesn't sound bad, right? Well, let me tell you. Up until this day, I have around 300 hours in Apex Legends, and I've only been able to unlock an additional 6 legends. And I'm not even that bad. I might not be Tommy or Asu, but I didn't just jump into the game with no previous FPS experience. The alternative to this infinite amount of grind are Apex coins, the in-game currency that can be bought for real-life currency. Each legend costs 750 Apex coins, which, as I mentioned before, you can buy with real money in different packages. You can get 500 for $4.99, 1,000 for $9.99, 2,000 for $19.99, 4,350 for $39.99, 6,700 for $59.99, or 11,500 for $19.99. Now, let's do a little math exercise. Let's say that you recently downloaded the game, and after a good amount of research and playing the game, you think to yourself, you know what? I think Valkyrie is a legend for me. She has some ability, she can fly, etc, etc, etc. You don't feel like waiting, and since you didn't spend a single dime on this game, you think to yourself, why not? Well, the cheapest pack isn't enough. Aww. I know. But then again, it's only $10 and you haven't spent a single dollar in this game. So you're about to buy the pack. But then you think, well, that means that I'm only 500 short from being able to buy 2 legends. I can just buy the 500 pack as well and get 2. But then it crosses your mind, well, I'm already spending $15. Might as well do 20 and get more coins, for which I believe I can get 3 legends, right? Aww. Ooh, just short. But that's okay. You can keep playing the game and expect an Apex pack to show up for free and maybe get a chance to get those 100 missing coins. But then again, what if you just spend another $5? After all, a full game is $60 and you're still spending way less than that, right? Let's look at it from another perspective. Put yourself in my shoes for a minute. You are an average player, or maybe below average, and you just want to be able to play with every legend at this point. In order to unlock the remaining 13 legends, you will need a total of 11,250 Apex coins. Alright, so post-recording Mario, just to clarify, I meant 15 legends. I meant 15 legends, I repeat. 15. I am an idiot, I'm sorry. Meaning that in order to afford all of them, the cheapest option will be to buy the $99.99 pack. In a worst case scenario, let's say that you just want to have the full game available to you from the get-go. You don't want to wait, you don't want to grind, you just want to have it all, baby. To get all 19 legends past the initial 6, you will need 14,250 Apex coins, meaning that even if you bought the $99.99 package, it would still not be enough to get all of them. You wouldn't even need just the $4.99 package, or the $9.99 package, or the $19.99 package. You will need to buy the $99.99 package plus a $39.99 package in order to have the full game available in all of its glory to you from the get-go. Nonetheless, and to be perfectly fair, you're not required to do this. I mean, who knows? Maybe you want to grind the game. Maybe you're willing to put 1,000 or maybe even 2,000 hours into the game just to unlock everything for free. Not only this, but to give some credit to the game, almost every single starting legend is in either A or S tier when looking into the professional tiers. I am also making it a point to mention just the immense amount of grind that it will take to unlock all of the legends, because unlike games like Call of Duty or Fortnite, having all these legends, having all these characters really does change how the game is played. In a very literal and technical way, you don't have full access to the game. This goes without mentioning the inclusion of heirlooms or prestige skins. Prestige skins. But gold skins. I'm gonna call it gold skin, which is where loot boxes really come into play. You see, Apex coins can be purchased directly. No RNG comes into play. You exchange, you purchase, that's it. Heirloom shards are a completely different beast. Heirloom shards are a uniquely rare currency of Apex Legends. You can only get a limited amount of the game, and they are the only currency that can buy heirlooms and prestige skins. These two are ultra rare aesthetic modifications to your character. Each legend has their own very unique skin or heirloom, and they present no change to how the game is played. These heirloom shards are only obtainable through the purchase of an Apex pack, which in itself costs 100 Apex coins each, and there's no other way of obtaining these heirloom shards in the game. Apex packs are the only way. In addition to this, it is mentioned in the Apex Legends wiki that each pack only has a 1% chance of having heirloom shards in it. It is also mentioned that you're guaranteed to have at least one pack with heirloom shards for every 500 pack. However, if you search around the web enough, you'll notice that this never happened to a lot of players. Let's run with these two scenarios once again. Let's be very optimistic and say that each pack has a solid 1% chance of having heirloom shards in it, meaning that you will need at the very minimum 100 packs to make sure that you get your precious heirloom shards in at least one of them. Well, at a price of 100 Apex coins each, that means that you'll need 10,000 Apex coins to make sure that you get your heirloom shards. At a minimum, you're then again directed to the $99.99 package to get these 10,000 Apex coins. Let's look at it in a worst case scenario. Let's say that you do need to get 500 packs just to make sure that you get your precious heirloom shards. At a price of 100 Apex coins each pack, that means that you'll need 50,000 Apex coins, which translates to 4 $99.99 package plus a $59.99 package just to make sure that you absolutely get these precious heirloom shards. Over $450 just to make sure that you get an in-game aesthetic item. This is only taking into account that you're getting a single heirloom for a single legend or a single skin. Not a deal, not 2 for 1, not the whole thing, one. Now, with all these being said, some of you might be wondering, these predatory practices are so obvious. Why not charge just straight up money instead of fake or digital currency? Why make so many digital currencies and loot mechanics? It's the same reason why casinos use chips instead of real bills or real money. The same reason why they give you larger bonuses when you make larger deposits. The same reasons why they provide free drinks and sometimes even free snacks for the people playing or betting. To create the illusion of winning, to create the illusion of fun, while in reality, and as always everyone knows, the house always wins. If you're like me, you might be wondering, who makes these decisions? Do game developers do not listen to their communities? After all, gaming communities are in contact with developers now more than ever. You have Twitter accounts dedicated to communication, subreddits, websites, forums, YouTube channels, all made with the intention of communication between developers and their communities. Shouldn't it be easier for them to know that absolutely nobody likes these things? To fully understand where the decisions for these games are made, such as the addition of microtransactions, skins or costumes, battle passes, loot boxes, the release of a part 2 where the only meaningful changes are aesthetic-wise, we need to look at two very important parts of a video game's release: the developer and the publisher. The developers of a game are the people that are actually making the game itself, writing the code, building and making character models and textures, writing the story, creating the UI, etc. They can also be known as gaming studios. Everything that you're getting in contact with while playing a game is made by a developer. Some famous game developers that you probably heard of are Bungie, Treyarch, Infinity Games, Insomniac, and Naughty Dogs, just to name a few. Game publishers, on the other hand, take care of financing, distributing, and sometimes marketing of said games. Some good examples of these are Activision, Bethesda, Nintendo, Sony Interactive Entertainment, amongst others. Also, and just as an interesting fact, there is such a thing as a developer that becomes so big that they become their own publisher. Ironically enough, Activision is a great example of this. Starting off as an independent third-party console game developer and growing to be one of the largest third-party game publishers in the world. Here is something to keep in mind though. The publishers are the companies that are in charge of finding games that have a lot of potential, investing in them with the intention of eventually getting a larger return. Let's not forget that, after all, video games are a business. Internet Historian has a video on No Man's Sky, developed by Hello Games and published by Sony Interactive, which I believe does a great job at portraying the relationship between these two. Go check it out if you haven't already, because that video is massive. When a big publisher finds a developer working in a game that they're really interested in, they usually offer them a deal they can't refuse. No, but really, the way it typically works is that they come in and offer the resources and money in an exchange for a percentage of the royalties and some creative control. I love the example of Hello Games because I believe that it does a great job at portraying what happens when a product is completely driven by money and when the product is completely driven by passion. Interestingly enough, with the same product, No Man's Sky. And also, although I don't think I have to make this clarification, money is also an incentive for the developers because, well, they eat too. The reality for most games, however, is completely different. They are heavily influenced by the publisher, and thus they need to follow their demands. Demands that more often than not are made with the intention of getting the most profit, especially when talking about free-to-play games. Free-to-play games, after all, are a huge gamble. Huge investments are needed for the development and the marketing of said games, that once people start playing them, is not gonna necessarily translate to any profit. The question then becomes, how can the publisher and the developer make sure that at least some revenue is being made? Microtransactions? Well, what if there was a way to make sure that at least a minimum amount was spent on the game before giving anything back to the player? Something like some sort of gambling. I don't know, maybe it will come to me later. This ultimately leads to where we are right now. Games are no longer driven by fun, by intrigue, by passion, by exploring. No, they're driven by money, by profit, and sadly, in most cases, by extreme greed. I also just want to make it clear that I'm not saying that games shouldn't make profit. I'm not saying that a game should only be driven by passion, because passion is not gonna feed a family. What I am saying is that there's a huge difference between making enough money to pay a first salary to the developers of a game and trying to get as many millions and maybe sometimes billions of dollars to give to just some random CEO that is already a billionaire. We could keep talking about this never-ending cycle of developer and publisher relationship and how this ultimately affects pretty much every single game that you play. Many examples exist after all. Diablo Mobile, Call of Duty, Apex, Star Wars Battlefront, Halo, League of Legends, but the video is already too long and I believe that you get the gist of what I'm trying to say here. However, before I end this video, I want to talk about a common criticism that I see being thrown around to people that, ironically enough, criticize free-to-play games. I've seen this argument being thrown around a lot when talking about games like Apex Legends, Valorant, and especially much more when talking about games like Warzone 1 and 2. The general feeling goes something along the lines of, how can you criticize a free-to-play game? You're not paying for the game after all, so what are you complaining about? And don't get me wrong, I understand where these people are coming from. I do. Nonetheless, just because something is free, that does not mean that it does not deserve any type of criticism. Especially considering that most of these free-to-play games are making much more money compared to fully paid-for games. Modern Warfare 2019 made $1.9 billion in 2020. Warzone made the same amount between 2020 and 2021. Apex Legends has made EA $2 billion. Overwatch 1 made $1.64 billion before getting shut down just to release a part 2. Just how much money is too much money? How much money is required to be able to provide a game that isn't locked behind paywalls or loot boxing mechanics or an insane amount of grinding? Hell, Fortnite is estimated to have made anywhere between 20 to 25 billion since its release in 2017. But you know why people don't talk endless shit about that game? Because it works. Because it's not broken. Because although it offers you in-game purchases, it doesn't change the mechanics of the game at all for you. The base game is still the same base game no matter what you buy. Hell, you can even exchange the purchases that you made in Fortnite at a later time if you feel like it. The fact that this game alone has made such an insane amount of money, yet the amount of criticism is so low, will make you think that other companies will start following the same trend. People need to be more aware of this. People need to be more open to the idea of criticizing a game no matter how much you used to love it, no matter how much you have spent on it already. Like, that doesn't mean that the game is not free of criticism, because they just keep milking the same systems over and over again. I'm not saying that what we need right now is scrapping the developers just for the sake of doing so, because that's not gonna help anyone. But not being able to provide any type of criticism and just accepting whatever you've been given just because it's free leads to exactly where we are right now. Broken releases, half-finished games, mediocre updates, loot box and mechanics left and right, microtransactions, and much more. And I didn't touch on this as much as I would have liked to because, like I said, the video is already pretty long, but this is not just affecting the free-to-play game industry, it's affecting the industry as a whole. If these games just keep releasing in such a poor state and people just keep throwing stupid amounts of money at them, why would developers need to keep up the effort? Why optimize? Why update? Why even finish the game before releasing it when we can just make the user download a 50 gigabyte patch or something like that? Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Callisto Protocol, The Quarry, Gotham Knights, Pokemon Legends, Arceus, or whatever, however you pronounce it, GTA Trilogy, Saints Row, Deathloop, and more recently, The Last of Us Part 1 can barely even run on a PC at higher settings.
Look how they massacred my boy.
A game that was released 10 years ago is making PCs with 4090s stutter and borderline breaking Steam decks. Make it make sense. These releases are just the ones that I personally care about for 2022 alone. A pattern is starting to form, and a pattern can only develop into a habit. To end the video, I would just like to say that just because something is free, that does not mean that it's good. I mean, if you're hungry, you're not gonna pick up a piece of shit from the floor and eat it, right? I mean, it's free. It would satisfy your hunger technically, wouldn't it? But anyway, that's gonna be it for today's video. I really appreciate any one of you watching up to this point. I know that it's a very, very long video. I used some bits and pieces that I was editing for this video because I was planning on releasing it like a year ago. So I don't know, I didn't want all that work and all this script to go to waste. So thank you all for watching. I would also just like to say that if you have any feedback about the video, about the new editing style, about the use of the green screen, about the use of, I don't know, the quality of the audio or the video or whatever, I would really much appreciate it. And just as a last thing for the video, I would just like to ask you guys, what is the game that has become the biggest disappointment to you because of all these new integrations of microtransactions or loot boxing, or basically like casino mechanics integrated into the game just so they can make more and more profit? But with that being said, that's gonna be it for this video. This is the long video for November, so expect a short and a long video for December. Subscribe if you haven't, that really does help a lot. But yeah, that's gonna be it. So I'm gonna finish this video and I'm gonna jump into some more Spider-Man because that's a good game. It's been a heck of a game. So, bye bye.